Hey everybody, my name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
Bob, there is so much going on in the world of RVing this week. And as the pandemic roars on, we're going to be talking with a young couple who at 37 years old got debt-free and hit the road.
That's everybody's dream. Well, that ought to be interesting. I've got a conversation with PJ Tezza from ModVans, a unique van camper company out in California that arrived on the scene about a year and a half ago when we did RVX, and very interesting to see their marketing philosophy and the uniqueness of what they're building.
And there you go. We've got that and all the news of the week. Stay with us because this is called what, Bob?
The Camper Report Show.
We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro along with Bob Zagami. And Bob, you know, as we continue to check the news out, the news of rising gas prices continues to make headline news. However, when gas prices have risen, the RV industry really doesn't suffer that much, which is kind of amazing.
You know, they really don't. And it's been interesting because I've watched it at the gas pump, the last couple of weeks myself. And some would say it skyrocketed, but it's up about 16 cents for January, and it's going to creep up a little bit more, especially with the closing down of the pipeline, Keystone Pipeline, and other factors that the administration is imposing on the energy industry. So it'll be a story, I think, for the certainly going into summer as it does. But the fact of the matter is, when gas prices go up, consumers and RVers just drive a little bit less. Nobody stops RVing.
Yep.
Instead of going 500 miles on vacation, they go 250.
Yep. But they are going to vacate. By vacate, that's a new word for go on vacation. See, we come up with new words on this show. You know, the good part is for those that like to head south in the late winter, spring, and summer, down in Mississippi, it's just $2.16 a gallon. Now, you say $2.16. Up here in Massachusetts, it was just $1.99 a month or so ago. But you know what? Up in the industrialized states, it's a little bit more expensive than down south. But I'm sure that the diesel.
I paid $2.40. I paid $2.40 in Massachusetts, and I paid $2.43 in Maine the other day. So yeah, it's getting up there. But the fact of the matter is, people, especially with the pandemic, we've already seen what it's done to new RV sales, and especially these newcomers. They're not going to not use it. They're not going to buy an RV and have it sit in the driveway of the campground and not go out there and use it. So RVers are resilient. They're used to this. They've seen it. They've seen the shortages in the 70s. They've seen it $5 a gallon, in the recession. So I don't think it's going to be an issue because, again, they'll go just less distance. They'll stay local. And, the fact of the matter is, when you think about it, that's what a lot of people did this year. They didn't go to Florida. They didn't go to Yellowstone. They actually stayed in their, primary state or the contiguous states that they had. And they visited places that they had never been to before. And they stayed in campgrounds they had never stayed in before. And they were close by the house.
Well, you know what? Stay with us on the Camper Report Show as we progress and we'll keep up to date. Maybe we'll have a weekly feature on what the median gas price is. And just to start that off, it says $2.46 per gallon across the United States, but California is going to be crazy. And the southern states and the coastal states on the east are going to be a little bit less. And with that being said, as we look toward better weather, we're in Black History Month, and our friend from Black Folks Camp 2 is in the news. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Earl Hunter Jr., we've known Earl for, maybe 8, 9, 10 years. And he was with Sylvan Sports as the VP of sales for quite a long time. And then a few years ago, he launched Black Folks Camp 2, which is an attempt to get the industry players to recognize the potential of the Black audience and the Hispanic audience and he does not want separation. He wants everybody to camp together, and he wants people to understand and market to. There's a tremendous market potential in terms of the revenue that Black people do spend in the RV industry. So he's done a really great job of reaching out to a lot of the manufacturers and the suppliers and getting their campaigns recognized. And I've already seen him in 3 stories, and it's only the 8th of February. So we may see 3 or 4 more, but it's a great site, and he's doing a great job of it. And he is just a natural salesperson.
He's so passionate about what he does. And the times that we've had him on some other shows that we've done, he always brings lots of comments from the audience. So we want to wish him well in his.
Yeah, we've had him on other shows before, but yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'll do my CEO interview with him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
see how that goes.
Exactly.
I
So
should get him on the list.
Tell us what else do you see going on that I wasn't aware of.
What's that?
What other news have you seen going on today?
Not there. There really wasn't that much. There's still some acquisitions going on. We got Lazy Days. I think you said they're building in Nashville.
They're building another Airstream only store. We just reported it, or you reported it a week or 2 ago about one up in Minnesota. So that means they'll have 3 stores that are Airstream only. So
yeah.
Anyway.
The big thing, and we do seem to talk about it every week, but the really big thing is the level of sales activity. Especially, one of the unique things in the Northeast, it was not that long ago that when we got to the winter months, and I'm talking the whole Northeast, that the dealers would lay off their technicians in the winter. They would lay off office staff because the joke around the industry was we weren't a 12-month business up here when it came to RVs. Well, that's changed quite a bit, to put it mildly. And not only are they not laying off people, but they're hiring people in the middle of the winter. And their sales numbers, I talked to several dealers around the country, the sales numbers for January, you'd almost have to put them in the incomprehensible stage.
Well, and when you add that to the fact that some of these units aren't even built yet and they're sold, we were talking with an RV rental company that for the month of April, this company has units that are reserved for rentals that they don't even have in yet from the assembly line in Indiana. So, the sales end of it and the rental end of it is all experiencing phenomenal numbers. So that's
well, the rental companies are suffering the same fate as the dealers. They don't know what they can get. They don't know when they can get them, and they're backlogged. And some of them that ordered inventory last September and October for the rental season that starts up here around May, after April vacation. One rental agency was just told they're not going to see the units until June. Well, that's half the season.
Yep.
For those people.
And it's interesting, we're talking to you from the Northeast where the season is somewhat shortened. And basically you got April to October, but for the southern states and the West Coast states, the shortages are even greater because they expect a 12-month business. And if you don't have the product to rent or to sell, that's going to ultimately impact what you're doing.
Well, a big factor is, what do the dealers have for inventory? I did speak to another dealer up in the Northeast the other day who last January, which was pre-COVID, it was when everything was riding along, going fine. Last January, sold 25 RVs. And in that particular area of the country, in January, that's a good month for them.
Yep.
So they just closed out their January post-pandemic, and they sold 113 units in January.
Time out. I want to make sure you got these figures right, that you're not you're not hallucinating, or you're looking across the line. What you're telling me is last January 2020, pre-pandemic, right? They sold 25 units.
Right.
And this January, mid-pandemic, hopefully end of pandemic. Same dealership, same location, same month to month, 113 units.
113 units. As I
Amazing.
say, it's, you know, and everybody says the same thing when I tell them that story. They say, stop. You must have made a mistake. You know, it's not, and it's happening at small, medium-sized, and large dealers. So the question is, can they build them fast enough to meet the demand of the dealers? And how much do they have in inventory? Because it's going to be not only, you know, we joke about it every week, but not only is it going to be tough to get reservations in the campground, it may be tough to get the RV to go to the campground.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So with that being said, we want to thank you so much for joining us for the news section. We've got a great show planned for today, so stay with us. This is
the Camper Report Show.
Are you using Google Maps to guide your RV?
Hey guys, it's Phil and Stacy from You, Me, and the RV. And we want you to travel safely and avoid those low bridges.
With RV Life, your phone will become an RV Safe GPS, providing turn-by-turn directions based on the dimensions of your RV. Don't buy an expensive RV GPS. RV Life has you covered and will keep you going in the right direction.
Want to know more about RV Safe GPS? Head on over to rvlife.com and learn about the entire RV bundle. You'll thank us later.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Camper Report Show. And on our CEO interview this week, I've got PJ Tezza from ModVans out in California, and it looks like you're sitting in one of your products, PJ.
I am. This is our demo, and it's also our my personal van that I drive every day, and I take vacationing on the weekends.
That's fantastic. Tell us how you got started with the company. It's an interesting story.
Yeah, so my wife and I actually we have 3 kids, and we had this kind of perfect, all the planets came into alignment, and our kids were all gone one summer. So we had an opportunity to take a long vacation, the longest vacation we've still yet ever taken. It was a month-long vacation, and kind of thinking about what we wanted to do, I decided to buy a Class C RV. So I bought it, and we had a great trip. It was just one of our favorite trips. We learned that we love the RV lifestyle, and that was a used Class C, which was kind of probably a good way for us to learn about, you know, RVs and where you can go with it and what kind of style you like. And what we discovered was, first of all, we really like going into national forests and camping in those campgrounds, not so much the big RV parks. And but we loved that style. We took our dogs, you know, kind of staying at different places, and we brought it home, but it was just too big for our lifestyle. We lived in Berkeley, which, if you don't know, is kind of like big city living. You know, we had park it in front of our house. It was too big, so we had to pay to store it. Well, there's no place nearby in Berkeley. I had to drive, you know, long ways to store it. It was really expensive. And then I didn't really like the whole having to go get it all prepared, bring it back. So for me, you know, I kept it for a year, and I learned a lot about, you know, what I liked and didn't like about that vehicle. And I kind of put together in my mind like the laundry list of the things that I wanted in the ideal RV. And so I started looking in the market. You know, here's what I want. I want, you know, something built on a Ford Transit, because it was the modern van at the time. I wanted something that was more on a Class B form factor, so it was easier to drive and park. I had, you know, I wanted to be able to drive it every day, so I had more seating than a typical Class B RV. So I started looking for this thing, and I couldn't find it. You know, I was like, somebody's got to be building this, but just nobody was building the thing that I wanted. So
let me stop you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Were you an engineer, or
my background is
what gave you the background to build an RV?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So my background is actually startups, you know, new businesses and software engineering. And then, but in that software engineering, I actually got a degree in physics from college. And then also I worked at a lot of manufacturing facilities. So, and I had tinkered with, I built hot rods as a young person. So I had some automotive and engineering background, but most of my, you know, background, my career had been in software. So, but at this particular time in my life, I had just sold a business. And so I had kind of this ability to work on things myself. And so that was how I ended up having enough time to actually spend building my own RV, which is what I wound up doing because it was very time consuming. I spent probably about 6 months, 40-hour work weeks, building the first one in my driveway in Berkeley.
And then you decided to show up at RVX a couple of years ago.
No, not at all. So I built that first one and I said, that was way too much work. I'm never going to do this again. And people would ask me, I would, park at the campground and people would walk up to me or at the beach and they'd be like, hey, this is cool. How can I get one? I'd be like, I can't help you because I built this one and I'm not going to build another one. So I actually,
famous last words.
Yeah, 3 years of that. People just, everywhere I would go. And my customers have that curse now. I tell them, when you take delivery of a ModVans CV1, you will get stopped. You will get asked about, where do you get it? What does it do? What does it look like inside? So anyway, 3 years of that. And Lori and I just happened to move to Ventura, California. We lived in Berkeley before, and she wanted to be near her relatives. And I said, oh, it looks like a cool little beach town. So we got down here. And the job market was a lot different than what it was in Berkeley for a high-tech person like myself. And so, I just started thinking about it. I was like, all right, well, this van thing, I get asked everywhere. Maybe I should look into it. And I built a website. So that's kind of my strength, is I can, I have the ability to just build a website and see what happens. And as soon as I did, people were like, I would totally buy this. When can I sign up? That kind of stuff. So that's really what led to the launch of ModVans, was the move to Berkeley, or to Ventura from Berkeley. And just having that kind of fortuitous opportunity to be in the right time at the right place, have enough kind of money to get us cranked up. And so my goal for the business, I told my friends, I was like, I'm not going to do it unless I have 5 pre-orders. And so after a month of sales, I had 10 pre-orders, and I was like, okay, I guess this is going to be the thing we're going to do for the next while. And so that was what led to, starting the business and meeting you at RVX when we won the Van Life Award.
Well, what's amazing about that was we all got to Salt Lake City, and for the big industry event, this was the brand new show, and it's an industry dominated by some very strong, very large, major players,
multi-billion-dollar companies.
Right. And they had this series of awards, and all of a sudden it's announced, and this company that nobody ever heard of, and nobody had ever seen the product till they got to Salt Lake City. You walked off with the camper van award, right?
Yeah, we lots of jokes about that because it was. I know it was very surprising because nobody had ever heard of us until that point. And I also, it's my understanding there were some people that were kind of sore that this company came out of nowhere and took that award. So, but it was exciting. I know, when they announced it, there was literally, like several thousand people in that theater, and everybody's like, wow, that's crazy. We've never seen anything like this. Who is this company?
You're right.
Exciting moment for us.
But you're right. There were some people who were not exactly happy that award went to your company. But it was the innovations that you built in and the conception of what you saw as a consumer-friendly product that was easy to use. Tell us about the modularity and what really makes it very special for your customers.
Yeah, so the module, people are kind of like, they're really drawn in by the pop-up top because it does have a pop-up top. And so that's the thing we get the most of the questions about. But that's actually not the most unique thing about the CV1. The most unique thing about the CV1 is something that's it's literally underlying the van. It's kind of hidden, but it is the modular capabilities. It's a modular form factor. So what we do is we actually spend a lot of time and effort in engineering to mount all of our appliances, including our furnace, our big batteries, propane system, the inverter. All those systems are mounted actually under the van floor. And so we spend half of the build time for us is actually getting all those systems together and mounting them under the van floor. And then when we install the cabinetry, the seats, the things that people normally think of as an RV stuff, none of those systems are inside those cabinets in the van. And so what that means is for the consumer is that you can buy a CV1 and then you could actually take the cabinets out and haul plywood one day. You can move the seats around so that it's a 2-seat, kind of traditional Class B RV one day. And then we actually have seating. It comes with seating for 5, but we have seating for up to 7 people. So you can drive it around. We get people taking their kids or taking to soccer matches, picking up grandparents from the airport. So you can use it as kind of a more normal people hauler as a replacement for a minivan or a 3-row SUV. So that's where that, modular form factor comes in, is that you can use it for many different purposes. Having a smaller vehicle, that's what's enabled by the pop-up top, and, it's kind of tied into the modularity, also makes it more likely to be used as a multi-purpose vehicle because it's just literally smaller. You can fit it into any parking space. It does fit into some parking garages. It's just got more flexibility, and it's just more easy and kind of carefree to drive than a larger RV.
Well, you mentioned that earlier about the size factor and the fact that, it's not decorated with graphics and signage. It looks like a van. So
Yes.
for homeowner associations that don't allow motorhomes per se, you can park it in your driveway, like you say.
I have a great story about that. So we had a customer.
Go ahead.
Really wanted an RV, and I can't tell you, like exactly what kind of RV he had in his mind, but he lives in an HOA, which is actually pretty common out here in Southern California.
Sure.
Market's tight, and we have a lot of people that they're retired or near retirement, and they're kind of looking at they don't want to do a bunch of yard work, so they move into these HOA communities, and they have super strict rules, and so that kind of comes back to you have to pay to park it somewhere, you have to go pick it up. So anyway, this customer of ours really had it in his heart that he wanted, something like this, and he found us. So it was just funny because he was like, we went through the whole saga with him of he had to present to the HOA board to get permission to park this thing, because he was like, I'm not going to do it and just show up there. I want to make sure that I have, it all set up. So, but anyway, it was just really funny to see him go through that. He presented the board. I can't remember the number. Let's say there were 6 people on the board, but apparently he had his arch enemy, his arch nemesis on the board. So it was like a really dramatic tale. This guy's like, you can't put that here, it's an eyesore and whatever. So the good story is he ultimately prevailed, and we're actually getting ready to build his CV1 really, really soon now. So
that's a great story.
I can't swear that it's going to work for every HOA. You could have that arch enemy who wins, but I think, he came back and he had this letter from his HOA, and, his kind of attitude was, this is opening up the door for more people in my neighborhood that would be excited to have a vehicle like this that aren't allowed to have a Class B and can't really justify paying to park it somewhere.
Yeah. And with the explosion of Class Bs and especially camper vans with pop tops these days, and the popularity of the Ford Transit chassis, you seem to have put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So before I let you go here, what does the future look like, short term, long term?
So in the short term, we have some really exciting vehicle development going on. So we did increase production capacity. We're nowhere near, where we could be in terms of meeting the demand that we see out there. But we decided to take this little period to do some vehicle development. So we're going to have some really cool, exciting, new things to show people that, like we won that award at RVX. I expect that these will be just as shocking and innovative and interesting to people. They're going to look at it and they're just going to be like, oh man, those ModVan guys are at it again. So that's coming up really soon.
Well,
we actually have a big, I know we're running out of time, so I want to go quick, but we're going to be at this thing called Adventure Van Expo. And it's if you haven't seen it before, I recommend just checking it out. It's a really small show. It's put on by a friend of mine, Neil, and he has grown that thing so much in the last 3 years. And it's kind of like, what's going to happen with the RV market in the future? Well, this Adventure Van Expo, I feel like, is at least part of the trend where things are getting smaller and more nimble and more about adventure. So anyway, we're going to sponsor. That's kind of the story. Is we're going to sponsor. We're planning to be at all the locations, and we're going to be at this first show to really roll out these new products. So that's short term. And long term, we're just going to keep growing. We're just going to keep growing and growing and trying to fill that demand that we see every day on our website and our phone calls and emails.
Well, you have done a fantastic job. We're going to keep following you also, but we'll put that information down below for the folks to follow your company, and we'll throw a couple of pictures up of the vans, and we'll certainly put information in there about the Adventure Van Expo, because it sounds like you're hitting on all cylinders, and most importantly, you're responding to what the marketplace wants today. So I want to thank you very much for coming on the Camper Report Show. It's always great to catch up to you. And we will see you down the road, and best of luck.
All right, Bob. Thanks for being a friend these years. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are you having trouble with RV trip planning?
Hey guys, we're Phil and Stacy from You, Me, and the RV.
And we're here to tell you about our favorite planner, RV Trip Wizard.
You can choose from over 20,000 campgrounds using filters to search for the types of campgrounds you love, like national parks or BLM or our favorite, Army Corps of Engineer parks. You can even check reviews before you make a reservation.
Want to learn more? Head over to RVLife.com and learn about their entire RV bundle. And we'll see you on the road.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to this segment of the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and you know, I've said it over and over and over again. One of the best parts about RVing is that you meet the nicest people, whether it's in a campground, whether it's on a rest area, whether it's at a venue where you walk out with your hamburger and you see, oh, they're going into an RV too. But either way, you meet nice people on the road. And one couple that we just had an opportunity to bump into is Jesse and Jenny from Florida. And hey, welcome guys to the Camper Report Show.
Welcome from Florida. Totally, this is definitely not a green screen. We're out on the beach right now. Beautiful.
And you say that, well, those of us in the north are in the midst of a winter storm warning. So just remember one thing, you guys, that weather has its karma. So at some time you say we're here in good weather. We might be in good weather, and you're worrying about those pine trees with 120-degree winds. But anyway, tell us your story. Introduce yourselves, and tell us the fact that for 3 years you guys have kind of sold it all and hit the road. So tell us your story.
Yeah. John, thank you for having us. And we definitely want to share parts of our story that we think can maybe help other people. Mm-hmm. We're not ones to talk about ourselves, but I think there definitely is a value in sharing what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I'm sorry, my name is Jesse.
I'm Jenny, and we've been full-time RVing for 3.5 years.
Yeah. So it's been pretty cool. The backstory is it's probably been about 6 or 7 years ago we started. I'd say the first part for us to do this financially responsibly, we actually wanted to become debt-free. This is well before we wanted to travel in an RV. Yeah. Many people have probably heard of Dave Ramsey. He has this Financial Peace University thing
on TV.
Yeah. So we did that. That was a big game changer. I worked shift work. I was a power plant operator, so I had tons of night shifts where I'd just be like waiting around for something I needed to do. So I'd start reading these financial blogs. There's a great one called MrMoneyMustache.com. That's pretty good to check out.
Mr. Money Mustache.
Yeah. A really cool blog, and it's got some really down to earth. Dave Ramsey is more on the church side of financial advice. Mr. Money Mustache is more of a, I don't know. It's a different take on the same subject.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you kind of got into doing what they were telling you to do, and you were able to pay off your mortgage or pay off all your bills at least.
Yeah. The first step was paying off our debt, and then actually with our mortgage, we actually bought a fixer-upper, and it was a disaster. Our first house we bought together was a disaster. We went into it knowing it was a disaster, but we bought a really crappy house.
We gutted basically the entire house and fixed it up, and sold it actually when the market was very high, which is one of the ways we were even able to get started on the road, because we had a good little nest egg that we were able to put aside. And
so that was your plan to flip the house, or did you live in it as well?
We did live in it. We owned it for 2.5 years.
Yeah, we actually would. So our initial plan was actually to, like, this background behind us here, to be out on a sailboat cruising the Caribbean, right? Like, what cold weather, what freezing temperatures, So that was our initial plan. But then we had a baby, and we had to, maybe we'll do the boating when he's older.
Yeah, I wasn't okay with having an infant on a sailboat, so we kind of stumbled upon RVing. Wasn't really on our radar at all. But it allowed us to still travel and scratch that itch with a baby.
And tell us some of the places that you've been to. It wasn't that Dr. Seuss that said, the places you'll go.
Exactly.
Tell us where you've been.
And that's what's so great, right? As you and many other RVers know, you know, there's a lot of places you can RV, and
We should give you the list of where we haven't been. It might be.
Okay. Okay. So for 3 years, you hit the road and all over the U.S., up and down the East Coast, out to the West Coast, Mexico, that type of thing.
And with that, we're actually it's kind of neat. My background is I was in the military. I had the GI Bill, so I was able to go to school for free, and I went to film school. And so what's neat with my background with film school, as you travel, there's a ton of RV YouTubers and plenty of cool channels, and we're just another one of those. But I'm doing things a little differently, and we have a whole series that we just started 2 weeks ago about our trip through Baja, Mexico. And I think so far, that's one of our top 3 places we've done trips. We went down into Baja. We're brand new. We've been RVing for 4 months, and we have a baby on board, a dog on board, and we decided, hey, we're going south because that's where the surf is at.
Yeah.
We wanted to go surfing.
Yeah, you wanted to get, even though you came from the East Coast, you wanted to go all the way to the other coast.
Yeah.
Well, we were actually living in Washington State when we started RVing.
Ah, okay. Okay, so you've been all over the place. So tell me this. What would you say to other people your age or younger, that have thought of that because of COVID? You know, there are some benefits of COVID that for folks that work jobs where they were basically in an office, like in a jail cell in an office on a computer, they found that they don't have to be locked into an office scenario anymore. So in your business now with film editing and website development, that type of thing, what advice would you have to a young couple or singles or whatever that want to hit the road? Any regrets?
Do it. No regrets.
Well, and also, first off, I think you're probably already aware, but I mean, COVID, probably one of the best positive outcomes of it is just people are learning that a lot of us can do a lot more things than we anticipated remotely. Things that weren't possible a year ago are now the norm. And so, there's so many ways to have a career yet be location independent. I feel that, the best way to do that would be to just, try to figure out how to do it financially responsibly. I guess an example of a bad example would be, we met a lot of friends of ours throughout all these different places RVing, and some people have had to, some people have bought brand new RVs and brand new trucks to pull those new RVs. And if you have a disposable income to do that, that's great. But if you're having to borrow money to do that, that's kind of a step backwards for some people, because then you're also having to pay for RV parks or for a solar power off-grid system. And so you definitely want to do it responsibly. And if you do it correctly, we bought a 15-year-old RV. We did a few upgrades to make it where we can go camping and go off-grid boondocking anywhere.
That's Edna, right? Is that Edna?
Exactly. Our 2002 American Eagle named Edna. And
it's built like a fortress, right?
Yeah.
Massive.
Built like a fortress.
Yeah, great RV. And what's great, without all that debt on our shoulders, we've been able to travel very freely without the extra stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And through the work online with video and that type of thing, we're able to supplement, sustain yourself at least.
Yeah, and here's another cool thing. So I'm not trying to toot my horn, because everybody has a method that's best for them, but our system worked very well. When we sold our house in Washington State, we set aside $25,000 to travel for a year. Right? You know what? We're going to travel for a year. $25,000 should cover it. We didn't have any debt. Right? We should be able to live pretty good. But what's kind of great is in some ways, I think I kind of retired, but I kind of didn't. We found ourselves financially in a good spot. Yeah. And that $25,000, here we are 3 years later, and we still haven't used it up, because as we travel with my background, I'm finding little jobs here and there that I can do. And we're actually, that $25,000 is stretched so far.
Well,
so
and we also, our house here, with the proceeds of the house that we sold in Washington, I have a slight addiction of looking at properties for sale wherever we're traveling to. And I found a house here in Merritt Island, Florida, while we were coming home for the holidays one year, that was bank owned. It was headed to foreclosure. It was very, very inexpensive. And no one had scooped it up by the time we saw it. And so we actually bought it. We didn't have to take out a mortgage. We bought it with the proceeds from the home we sold in Washington. And so we're able to rent that out, which is another bit of, income that keeps us living like this.
Yeah. Jenny, any issues with a newborn, not a young baby, a newborn when you hit the road because you're traveling without a family structure nearby? Any issues that you encountered?
I mean, just the issue of not sleeping, but there weren't any problems. I actually loved having a newborn in an RV because everything's close. You don't have to.
Everything's close, right?
I can sit on the couch and still reach whatever it is I need. Yeah. We didn't have any problems having Tucker. I will say I probably won't do it again if we have baby number 2 here soon. I don't really want to have an infant and a toddler in an RV. I'm sure it's doable. My sanity wouldn't be able to live through it, but I loved it.
And one key thing to keep in mind too, as I'm sure you already know, John, but so for people watching, with an RV, if you can become location independent with these remote job opportunities that have now come about from COVID, the great thing is it doesn't matter the size of your RV, because essentially, the outdoors could be your backyard essentially. So you can go somewhere where the weather is favorable, and even if it's a small RV, just go where you have good weather and also
follow the sun if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Chasing 70, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we want to thank you so much. And we do want to let people know that your website is called Outside is Calling, right?
Yes.
Outside. But actually, I think your viewers might find even more interesting. The trip we mentioned through Baja, Mexico, we have an entire series we just started releasing. And on YouTube, Outside is Calling, you can see all of our misadventures, it's all on there. The good and the bad, it's all on there.
The fact, Jen, I'm calling you Jen, or just met you, I'm calling you Jen. People like to hear what you did wrong, so they don't do it. Not because they're happy that you got it and they didn't, but they like to hear of misfortunes of others because smart people will learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Repeat it, but never.
There's been a lot. You'll learn a lot from our channel.
I'm going to give you a spoiler. We break the RV multiple times. The pieces of the RV get broken in Mexico.
Yeah, they do. They do break. So we want to thank you so much for joining us, and let people know that if they want to find out more about Jesse and Jenny and Tucker, that they can go to their website, Outside is Calling, and also to their YouTube page, Outside is Calling, and find out about the trials and tribulations. And folks, if you like this segment, we've got so many more, and all you have to do is down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, hit the button that says subscribe. And with that being said, we want to thank you so much for being with us. Wish Jesse, Jenny, and Tucker the best, and let you know that you are watching the Camper Report Show